Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren, and on this channel I talk about healing chronic illness and symptoms by healing old attachment trauma. Trauma that's deep in our unconscious, emotions that are deep in our unconscious, I should say, and beliefs in our unconscious. What does the process look like? What does it look like? What is required? What is needed for us to be able to bring things from the unconscious to the conscious so that we can process them, so that they stop bogging down our energetic system like they're doing if we have chronic illness or symptoms. So first, it's been a while since I've made a video. This is par for the course in my own practice of self-compassion and being easy on myself and not pushing anymore. Not pushing myself when I'm feeling like I really need processing time, integration time. So that's what has happened this time. I had a huge release 2 weeks ago. And it was different than any release that I've ever had. It was actually not mine. I know that I have ancestral trauma, and I have known that. I have been working on it through my own lifetime's experience. I've realized now, after having that release, that I hadn't quite gotten to the full aspect of it, because without realizing it, I wasn't allowing the energy to move through me in a way of being channeled from someone else. There was a part of me that believed I'm not allowed to do that. That I'm not gonna claim somebody else's pain. And the truth is, it's not about claiming someone else's pain. It's about being a vessel to move emotion through, even if it's something that didn't happen directly to me. So this actually got prompted, there's my cat, got prompted by a meeting with a very gifted medium, and I've never spoken to a medium before. And I spoke to a couple of people, one of whom was my grandmother, and she let me know that I was caring for some of her wounds, and she referred to what they were. She referenced what they were, and I had already been aware partially of what that was for her. And it switched something in me. It activated something in me. It activated the energy of allowance. The question of healing, however much we can heal, is always a question of what can we allow. What are we capable in this moment, in any given moment of time? How much can I allow myself to feel? What can I give myself permission to feel? And we don't realize, we're not consciously not giving ourselves permission. This is an unconscious process. But the process of rewinding that, reversing that, is how much can I allow myself to feel? And so much of this is about shining the light of consciousness on things, speaking about it, bringing things up, thinking about it, moving it in our minds and then moving it in our bodies and speaking it out and trying to move that energy, that because it's in some way that we have not allowed ourselves to feel it. And there was a good reason that we didn't, because it was too scary of a feeling to feel. It felt too big for us when we were little. It was too big for us when we were young. And that wiring, because that was when our brains and our nervous systems were being developed. This is why attachment trauma is so impactful, because it happens in this time when we are developing. We're creating all of our circuitry. And so that wiring goes on through life until we go back and change it. And changing it is not an easy task. It takes a lot of work. So the question always is, how much can I allow myself to feel in this moment? Now, we can't permit everything at one time. The body needs time to integrate, the body and the mind, the psyche need time to integrate and process everything that's happening. And so having that mediumship session was what I needed, apparently. I didn't know this, was apparently what I needed to allow myself to feel what I was actually feeling, and I didn't realize that I was feeling it. And in the 2 days after, I had dreams that spoke so vividly to what my biggest fear is and what I'm carrying. Carrying this particular trauma, it was a sexual trauma that didn't happen to me. But I was carrying it. And I've always wondered about this, because I have had and continue to have some symptoms that really fit with sexual trauma. And I've just there is a part of me that's never quite allowed it because it didn't happen to me. And so this session gave me that permission, I guess. I mean, again, this is just based on the evidence of what happened and what I know about healing. And it's about this allowance. How much can we allow ourselves to feel? And part of that is breaking down the defenses, not breaking them down, but softening them, bringing compassion and appreciation to our defenses because they're doing a very important and effective job. That's a big part, like a really key, crucial part of the process of allowing. That's like the sort of action that we need to do, is to soften those defenses, understand them, and bring those to conscious light and really make a relationship with them. So when I allowed myself from this session to let that in, whatever was going to come, and a couple days after the session and after these couple of dreams that were very illuminating, I had this huge release. And it was of disgust. I've worked with disgust before, but now I realize it was kind of a lightweight version because the version that showed up a couple of Mondays ago was full embodiment of that emotion, just full embodiment. It was full body, pulling away, looking away in a very intense way for a while. Also, this intense skin crawling sensation that felt a lot like what it feels like to be very like bone chilled, bone cold, which has been throughout my whole journey. And it's been a very slow one to thaw. It's taken a long time to thaw that out, but it was remarkable to notice this skin crawling feeling and this compulsion to want to rub it off and pull it off. And I really exhausted myself, actually. I was sore for like days and days after. The intensity of needing to like wipe off that sensation. I mean, I knew I wasn't actually doing it, but it's what my body was really calling for me to do. This, and there were other things with it too, but just to give you an example, because this is what emotional release really looks like. And I've done this, this kind of work is what is true for everything, for grief, for anger, for disgust, for disappointment. It's a whole body experience. How can I embody this emotion to move it? And we use our voice to do it too. So it's the body and the voice working together to express and move that emotion. I've been on this journey for 4 years, and this is the first time really of a full body disgust, expulsion, release, purge that has happened. And what I am trying to say with that is that we've got to start with the emotions that we feel more comfortable with. Sadness is usually a place that most of us are more comfortable. It's not comfortable. Grief is not comfortable. And there is a learning process with learning how to grieve and allowing the full body cry, the full immersion into what your body wants to do, that heartbreak, that pain in the heart that comes with it, and the many tears. It's like, grief has a lot of tears that come out with it, more tears than like disappointment, I've said before. And it's just like every emotion is different, and I try to describe with my hand gestures and body motions and postures and voice and descriptive words. I try really hard to help you know what the embodiment of an emotion is, because it helps us start to familiarize ourselves with that emotion before it actually happens. And that's a really, really important thing when we're trying to thaw this freeze. We're trying to unfreeze ourselves, but we're frozen because there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of unsafety there. And so, of course, the nervous system work is crucial. The creating safety in the mind with learning about attachment wounds and learning what our wounds are and familiarizing ourselves with our wounds and taking on the concept of every emotion has a valid reason for being there. If there's an emotion there, there is a good reason. There is a good reason, and that's all you don't need, or you actually don't need a reason, but it should be there. It's supposed to be there because it is. This work of de-shaming, all of these parts are so important for creating that safety in the body that allows these emotions to come up. So what I'm saying is, like, grief is one that most of us are more familiar with, that sadness, because we have to deal with loss in our lives. We're more familiar with it. And so in my mind, it's a good place to start. It's where I started along with shame, but shame isn't easy. It's just that it was a first one for me because it was just so obvious. And it just came up all the time. I couldn't really get anywhere until I worked with shame, until I learned how to work with shame. And havening was crucial in that. Havening for shame and judgment, softening those defenses. So disgust to me feels like a pretty intense one. There's no right or wrong order, but I'm just sharing my experience that I couldn't have processed that disgust years ago. It just would have been too intense, and I wouldn't have been able to allow myself to do it, to fully embody that and trust my body fully, completely. It's taken me 4 years to get to the place where I 100% trust my body. Finally. There have been so many defenses to break down, so many self-doubt energies to process and grieve the source of them, the self-esteem wound. It's the belief that everyone else knows better, everyone else is right, and I'm always wrong, that I know less, that chances are I'm doing something wrong. It's not right. I've always known it's not right. I do stuff right all the time. But it came from a place of pain. And processing that pain has taken me a while, years. But this is why I'm making this channel for you, so it doesn't take you that long, because this is such a learning process. So I'm sharing with you today this idea of allowing. What is it in our life circumstances, in our journey, in working with a coach like me, and working with havening and your nervous system, and all the cognitive, intellectual exploring of your past, the body work that you do, stretching, havening, any kind of body work that moves the energy. What is it? What does it take right now in this moment to move this energy that's trying to come up right now? That's always the question. And it varies. Speaking has been my most consistently effective means, and moaning and groaning and just starting to vibrate the feeling, make the sound that is coming up from the depths, but I have no idea what it is, So this disgust I'm sharing because it's another example of an emotion that full body, that it's that embodiment. So when we're working with trauma, we're working with moving from the mind where we've spent vast majority of our time usually, because it's just a brilliant defense to protect us from all the stuff that's going on in here. So what does it take to bring us from the mind to the body? What is the body ready to bring up? And then the center point between head and body is the throat. It's just this key piece for expelling and expressing that emotional energy that connects the mind and body and lets it out like a smooth flowing, beautiful thing, beautiful energy and frequency. That's what it takes to release these energies. That's what it takes to release these weights on us and these blocks, these energetic blocks that are causing physical problems, physical pain, but also emotional and internal pain, that internal suffering that nobody else can see. So the intensity of this release and this allowing that this medium session allowed me to do, and it was just unbelievable, because I felt, I knew her. I knew this girl that I've never met. I felt her so viscerally, like it's an understatement. I mean, my body was her emotion. And with that sexual trauma, there's more emotion than just disgust. I have more to do there. But that's what wanted to come out at first, the first to come out from this. And it was like exploding from my body. At one point in the day, I was giving my full attention to something else. And as soon as I was done, I just felt this it felt like an emotional vomit was coming. Like it was just like this energy was exploding, and I fell to the floor. And I find with these old emotions that the floor is very comforting. I have almost had no releases. No, I've had some in the car with rage, screaming, but almost all of my emotional releases are on the floor. There's this seeking of ground. I need the ground. It's this feeling of, and so when you're trying to encourage an energy to come up, to seek ground, touch the ground, feel the ground underneath you, and cry out to it. It's this thing that's holding us, and it just doesn't have the same impact for me on a bed or a chair or anything else. I definitely can't do it standing. So I crumbled to the floor, and this started coming out of me. And there were sounds I've never heard myself make, things I couldn't believe I was saying. It was a pure channeling of someone else, and I could feel her. I could just so feel her. It was really an amazing, amazing experience. And interestingly, that night, I started getting sick. I've been sick for the last 2 weeks, and it feels connected to me. My intuition says this is part of the release and integration. This is part of it. Because when I finished the release, my body calmed down, and I just listened. I just listened for a while to hear, is there more? Because emotions a lot of times come in waves. Your body will give you like a break, and then it'll start back up again. But it felt complete, and yet I could feel that there was more here. It's just that my body had had enough for that time. And I just felt this knowing, there's more. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's more disgust. And there was anger, and there was disappointment. There was sadness too. So, I mean, that's the thing with these emotions. Maybe a majority of it is one emotion, but it comes with these other emotions too. Emotions aren't as clean and neat and tidy as some of us would imagine or like it to be. They're fluid and flowing, and that's what makes them so beautiful, honestly. This connectivity between them. But I got an illness starting that night. I had a sore throat, and I thought, well, it's because I was screaming and crying, but it turned into an illness. And then the second week, it turned into laryngitis, and it felt very symbolic to me. And this is the second or third time that I've had this happen, where I've gotten ill. It's felt like this is connected to, this is part of the release. There's something that has been broken free in my body, that now my immune system is going through the process of processing and fighting and expelling from the body. And there has been so much phlegm and mucus, which is disgusting for you probably to hear. I'm sorry, but that, I believe, is part of the emotional release process. Like when we have a lot of phlegm, just liquid fluid coming out of us, I really believe there's emotional content in it, whether we're aware of it or not. I really believe that. And especially in this case, I'm feeling better now. My voice is still a little scratchy and gravelly. I actually got laryngitis last year, and these are the first 2 times I've had it, I think, in my whole life. Like legitimate laryngitis where my voice is gone for 5 days. Like all I have is a whisper. There's no vocal cord vibration. It felt like a message to me that it's time to rest. It's time to rest. Like no more. This is time for integration. This is time for process. Don't work. It's time to rest. So often this is one of the big overarching messages of developing chronic fatigue. One of the big overarching messages is it's time to rest, and something's not working. We're outpouring way too much of our energy, and it's time to rest. It's time to look at those patterns, where they're coming from. They're always coming from pain. They're always coming from a wound. So I wanted to catch you up on that and share my experience with that, because I have found it very profound. And again, ancestral trauma in this sort of direct route is new for me. I think partially because there was something standing in my way of allowing it to be true. This unconscious belief that I'm not really allowed. How dare I claim it? But it's funny when I say that, because I'm not claiming it as mine. But I think there was some sort of distorted belief that I would be by having it move through me. Like this unconscious belief that I can't really do that. Or maybe it was that. Maybe it was more, I'm not capable of doing that, of like channeling someone else and allowing that energy to move through me. And it's so resonant though at the same time, because I've had this very consistent experience, and actually one of the people on the other side that I spoke to addressed this exact thing, that there's been, in my healing journey, there's been this unsettled feeling of there's more than I'm seeing in my lifetime. There's more than I've experienced in my lifetime that I'm not getting. Like my body is telling me I'm more traumatized than my lifetime has said. So I've had this unsettled feeling for years, and I'm sharing a lot in this video. Hope you don't mind. Hope you like it. This unsettled feeling that there's more, and what is it? I'm not getting to it. And yet not allowing myself to give myself permission that that's actually what it is. I knew that it was, but I couldn't quite get there. So again, it goes back to this question: what can we allow and fully allow, 100% allow? Opening that energy field up enough to let it really come through you. So I think that's really the key piece, the key takeaway here. I really hope this is helpful. There's been so much to integrate, allow my body to integrate, which it's been physically doing through illness, but there's been so much psychological processing through it. Because I'm still integrating, it hasn't been quite clear the impact, and yet I feel an even deeper sense of peace. This is the greatest gift, I believe, of healing trauma, is first creating this sense of peace when it's been a pure war inside, internally. It just feels like a war when you're carrying trauma. So first creating that sort of initial sense of peace, that visceral feeling of peace. And then with each purging cycle, emotional processing and releasing cycle, that peace gets deeper and deeper. It's amazing. It's amazing. And that's what I want for you. So again, I hope my sharing is helpful. I hope you're doing well in your healing journey. I really do. If you ever want support, because validation and emotional support, there's so many benefits of coaching that I can't even say. But one of the biggest ones is fierce validation and presence. And I believe humbly that I bring that. So if you ever want support from me and I resonate with you, please reach out for a 30-minute initial call, and then we can go from there. So if you ever want support, I'm here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Bye.